Hey everyone, welcome to the full moon forecast. This is for the full moon that's happening in Capricorn, happening on July 3rd of 2023. And it's coming in, if you're in the Pacific Standard Time, at 4:38 a.m. Eastern is 7:38 a.m. And remember, you can just adjust it for your time. This is some interesting energy, and we are going to be looking at all the details that we have and what really stands out as far as the energy goes. I'm Kendall with Wild Reawakening and the Bohemian Tarot Girl, and this is my co-host, Amy. Give a shout out for yourself.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm an intuitive energy coach and moon circle leader with Wild Reawakening. And we're just getting together like we always do at this time of the month to talk about the upcoming moon energy. This one, I think this moon is going to be really important. There's a lot of significance to it. It happens at like the half point of the year. So it's a good time to like reevaluate where you've been and then kind of make some plans for where you're going. There's so much earth and water energy happening with this that it's like a good combination of the spiritual as well as the physical, and how you can kind of merge those and create balance and move towards a life that feels good in both aspects of those two kind of oppositions. Because with full moons, it's always about the opposition of the sun to the moon. We have our sun in Cancer, moon is going to be in Capricorn, and that is happening at 11 degrees. So if you want to see in your chart where this is affecting you most, you can pull up, look at 11 degrees Capricorn, see what house that is falling into and the themes of that house. And that'll kind of give you an idea of the area of your life that may have the most impact with this moon. So we have a lot to get into today.
Yes, yes. So, when we were talking about this, this full moon energy, and it's interesting because we have it in the Capricorn. We have it, opposing the sun in Cancer with that energy. And it's that very like emotional side, but I get this kind of wrapping up feeling. If we looked at this past new moon that we've come from, and it was very much, it kind of was agitating even to me. Like I personally felt like I was super drained. I didn't want to I didn't really have the energy to go and do anything that I really needed to do. I had to force myself into some of the movements that I had to take. And it was really a time for kind of like hunkering down. I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like super agitated. I don't know how you felt, Amy, about
Yeah,
it.
I mean, Gemini, we had that new moon in Gemini, and Gemini being an air sign, and that's also ruled by Mercury. And we talked about how there could be a lot of mental stimulation with that. And I think that when you have an overload of mental stimulation and you have a lot of thoughts going through your head, it can be very physically
Raining.
challenging and mentally challenging to really focus on a whole lot. And so I'm kind of glad we've moved away from that
Yeah.
hyper mental stimulation that was going on. And now we have this moon that's coming in, that's kind of giving a dose of reality to our world, and some stability and some concreteness. We have the sun in Cancer, and that, changed at the equinox, or the solstice, on the 20th, 21st. And the Cancer is, why do I always get this backwards? So the moon rules Cancer? Yes.
Mhm.
Cancer is ruled by the moon. Okay. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So we have a lot of intuitiveness and emotion and connectedness to the moon energy during this time anyway. And now we have this full moon coming in, and it's also a super moon. So
Yes.
it's going to amplify the energy that is happening during that time. And it's in the opposite sign of Capricorn. And Capricorn is a very masculine energy. It's very much an energy that exists in the physical realm. It's very practical and wants to have a plan and it wants to stick to the plan, and which is, of course, extremely different from that fluidity that comes with Cancer and the moon. So when I look, I really love this moon, and I love the one that we have when we have the full moon in Cancer as well, because I look at these energies as almost being like Cancer is the divine feminine energy, and then you have this divine masculine energy of being in Capricorn, or more like, the father and the mother of the zodiac in a way. And so when they have this blending together and they can create a balance, it's actually the most beneficial energy that you can incorporate into your own personal self and your own life. Because we all have masculine and feminine in us, and we need both to function in a very positive light.
Mhm.
And so when we have this moon that comes in, it's like having you take kind of a deeper look at where your spiritual path is, where your intuition exists, what feels good to you on the higher levels that we incorporate with that. And then also, how are you going to take that information and that intuitive part of yourself and that spiritual part of yourself and create a life plan and path into the physical reality, so that you can move forward in a way that is rooted in both.
Yes.
So I think this is a really important move.
Yeah. I mean, I find it very interesting that, this full moon to me, usually it's a lot about releasing. And I do think there are pieces about reflecting and releasing that we need to go through. But a lot of it is, and we spoke about this earlier about getting your ducks in a row, getting things lined up and ready for you to go. And it's interesting because with this full moon opposite Mercury, which was something that stood out to me, that is a tendency to actually bring on confusion and do the, kind of like make you less willing to share your feelings. But because of the way this moon is working out, we have all these like fortunate things happening. We have Mercury is aligning with the fixed star Sirius at 14 degrees of Cancers. And so it's giving you this ability to really honor and reevaluate these passions in your life, which I love. And I just feel like this is your moment to really take a, forward step, right? And clear the path for you. So when we step into this next new moon, you're really there and able to really understand what you want and where you want to go. And it's finding that organization piece, I think, is key here. Whether or not it's organization as far as, how the people are in your life, or maybe it's putting forward and starting a connection with a new business partner, somebody who you're going to bring in to work with you to help bring things along. So I find that interesting about this. I mean, the the trine with Jupiter is really good luck, right? That is all about this good luck, happiness, and it's really going to bring in that ability for you to share and connect with people in a way that this moon would have normally kind of maybe perhaps put a damper on you. So I love that we have this energy that's really focusing on this abundant energy. And that's where we need to harness what we want to do and really put forward and put some steps into motion, which is not traditionally what we do with a full moon. So
No, and if we look back at kind of the themes of the moons that have been happening or this whole year, honestly, there's been so much emphasis on releasing and like going over and like
yeah.
reevaluating things. We've had so much of that energy. Even it doesn't like whether it was new moon or full moon, it just felt like there was so much. Okay, let's take a deeper look at this and let's evaluate whether or not this needs to move forward with us. And I feel like this is probably one of the first moons of the year that we're talking about that is really giving us the ability to create some concrete foundations and building blocks. I always think of the earth signs, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo, as being kind of the builders of the zodiac. And so we have such, you mentioned Jupiter being in Taurus and it's trining this moon in Capricorn, and it's Jupiter expands everything that it comes in contact with. And so when it's meeting up with these building signs, it's really giving this ability to um, create something that is going to last a long time and have some solidity to it. And uh, you know, put something out into the world that you feel good about, and you have been trying to get off the ground, or you've had these ideas but weren't necessarily sure on how they were going to come to fruition, and now we have this energy that's like supporting that. It's such supportive, um like solid energy. So I'm really grateful for it, because it feels like everything lately has just kind of been in flux and up in the air, and well, you don't need to see the path forward yet. You just have to trust it's coming. And finally, I think that a lot of you are going to notice that this process that you've been in of either a holding pattern or waiting, or um, having to put a lot of trust into what the future is going to look like, it's going to start having more of a base and more of a vision forward for you. So it's been really good.
What are the other aspects that we're looking at here that really stood out to you?
Well, Saturn has gone retrograde in Pisces,
Mm-hmm.
or will be going retrograde in Pisces. It's July 18th until November 4th. And so when Saturn goes retrograde, it gives you the opportunity to, we know Pisces. It's a water sign. It's the 12th sign of the zodiac. It does not have a lot of concreteness to it. And so when it's in Saturn, which is a sign that is very much about reality, when it goes retrograde, it gives us a chance to reevaluate maybe some areas of our life where we have been a little too fluid, or
Yeah.
where we haven't been clear on expressing what we really want, or where maybe we've made promises that we no longer feel good about, or we were trying to people please in order to just kind of like get through. So as we're working with this moon and it's giving us the opportunity to start building, it's also, with Saturn getting ready to go retrograde, it's giving us the opportunity to be like, okay, where do I need to be more direct? Where do I need to be more concise? Where do I need to have better boundaries around the people I'm working with, or the people I'm in relationship with, or my work? And so there is that element that's kind of coming in, that is kind of also solidifying the path forward a little bit more. But you're going to have to, you're going to have to decide where you stand and what is important to you as you move forward.
Yes. It's interesting because we have the sun and it's forming at 8.5 degrees and it's doing a weak square. So it's not a strong square, but that's with that Chiron energy. And we have these that can lead to not, these realizations in your life. So I think things that if you've been trying to move forward with certain things, I think things are going to come up and be like either it's a green light or it's like a red light. And being able to take that information and really distill it into your life and see where you're supposed to be focusing your attentions on. So I think some of you might have set some things into motion in your life during these past couple of months, and you've been waiting. And I think some things are going to come up during this time where it's going to tell you it's a green light or it's a red light, and you need to just take that piece and you need to really work through with it. Maybe it's not the right connection for you. It's not necessarily that what you're doing is wrong. It's just that that connection piece is not right, and so you need to develop a different connection. Or it could be that you have two choices to pass, and it's leading you towards a different path that maybe you weren't hoping or focusing on. And we do, Amy and I talk a lot about manifestation, and it's not about focusing on like a very strict defined thing. It's about focusing on the feelings of what you want to bring into your life and letting things naturally come to you. And I do think we're guided in a lot of ways. So just realize during this time, there might be some, green lights coming to you, and there might be some red lights, and you need to take a step back and just evaluate those. I always use tarot cards to dig a little bit deeper into what's happening in my life. So I always encourage people to do that. Or if you do other tools, Amy uses a pendulum a lot. So, if you're not really sure how to connect with your higher source, however you look at it, you need to just take a step back and really evaluate that, do some journal work, to see what really comes to you.
Yeah. And if you feel like you are getting some red lights coming up and maybe they were unexpected and you were like, but I really thought this was a sure thing.
Yeah.
Don't get too disappointed in that outcome, because typically when that happens, there's going to be another pathway that opens, or a realization of something that's going to work so much better for you. Usually don't get a stop unless it's it's always in your best interest. So, learning how to trust that. I know some people, they get really caught up on the whole disappointment element of it, and they kind of like miss the part that it's a really rerouting to something or some way that's going to work out so much better. So just keep that in mind. And we do have that Jupiter, again, Jupiter's playing a big part in this because it's sextiling so many different planets during this time. That Jupiter in Taurus is sextiling that Saturn in Pisces as well. And so that's kind of giving an element of learning, that Pisces energy, that learning how to trust your intuition and trust that where your path is going to be worth the investment. And so whatever you're investing your time and energy and all of that in, it's really giving you that aspect of trusting that you're going to get where you want to go, even if it's not the clear pathway that you thought it would be.
Exactly. I definitely agree that people need to be aware that, you can't really focus in on a failing. And I think that is important. Like, don't think of it as a failing. Don't think of it as something that's preventing you from getting where you need to go. It's just redirecting you into a different path. It's showing you that there might just be a different option. And so we need to be aware of that. And I think that's really important. And it's just part of like a natural thing that comes in our life, right? With that faded energy. And we have this Jupiter energy. So I feel like if you're receiving any kind of if those messages are coming to you and helping you direct your life, really take it as a positive experience, because it's really using that Jupiter energy in order to give you luck. So I do think that whatever, even if it's something that you maybe perceive as negative in this current time, it's not really negative, because you have that Jupiter energy and it's really pushing you towards something that's going to be wonderful for you. You just have to be open to it. And that's very important.
Mm-hmm. And then also we have Pluto, which we talked about in the last moon, has gone retrograde. Mm-hmm. And it will be retro. It's, it had entered Aquarius and it was there for a short couple of months, and now it's retrograding back into Capricorn, and it'll be there until, the end of the year.
Yep.
So that's also giving some more stability to things. When we talk about the signs, there's always like a positive and a negative aspect to them. And so I just want to say, with this moon having all of this earth energy and so much Capricorn involved in it, Capricorn is great for getting things done, and it's great for being realistic and having a plan and, building. But also Capricorn has a rigidity to it. And so you want to make sure and check in with yourself that you aren't getting too stuck on, this is the only way, this is, the way it has to be, getting caught up in the details of how it's going to happen. You have to bring in some of that feminine energy from the Cancer sun and temper some of that rigidity with like the fluidity and softness and the ability for things to kind of rearrange themselves.
Mm-hmm. I do think that their rearranging part is really prominent in this moon energy, and that ability that you can't be. Capricorn has a tendency to be rigid, and it does want us to align some things and get things going, but yes, you cannot be solely stuck, marching yourself in one direction. You need to really pay attention to what's being communicated to you during this time, because I do think that there is some realizations that are going to be coming down from your higher source, from your subconscious, whatever you want to call it. And they're really going to be leading you and guiding you to where you need to go. And so having the flexibility to be able to pay attention to that and change some of the plans that you're making is really important. And, we have a tendency, when we think about that Capricorn energy, yes, to be really set in stone, to really focus in on what thing we have to repeatedly do in order to get a job done. And so I like that reminder, Amy.
And where Cancer is like, it is the opposite, obviously, but Cancer they change their mind a lot. Something can seem good one day and then not the next day, based on how their feelings are and where their emotions are at. And so just check in with yourself and see which side of that pendulum you're sitting at, and see if you can find a way to get yourself centered and balanced so that you're harnessing the best aspects of both of these signs during this time. I actually came across a quote today, and I put it on our Facebook page and Instagram page, but it was something along the lines of like, self-care isn't like bubble baths and chocolate. It's building a life that feels good and you don't want to escape from. And so as we're kind of coming into this time of the year and this moon, and we're emphasizing like the next, half of the year that's coming up, I think it's going to be so significant for you to look at what kind of life you are wanting to build and what feels good internally and externally, and have them match.
Yes. And this is the time with this full moon to really take the opportunity and use the energy. We have, some interesting energy that's going to come up for the next new moon on, July 17th. We have Venus going into retrograde. What else? Chiron's going to go into retrograde on July 22nd too. And so you have Mercury switching into Virgo. So we have this interesting collection of energy coming up. And I do feel like there is this call to use this energy in a way to align yourself and make yourself ready for this next step. The new moon that's going to be coming up will be in the sign of Cancer. And so it's going to bring in more of that energy. So we just have to remember that, with this watery energy, whatever is being driven from our intuition is really going to come into play and probably make some sense as we come into this next new moon cycle. And so those really coming together for me, right? Like when I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. You do need to take that time, during this full moon and make some plans, but be really conscious and guided by your intuition that Cancer energy is bringing you.
And we also, just one other thing, we have Venus and Mars that have both been in Leo for some time now. And with Venus getting ready to go direct, Mars is going to move forward and move into Virgo eventually. But they've been really close together. And, that again is the other element of like the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And they've been in the same sign, which is Leo, which is very heart-centered. It's a fire sign, but it's about, Leos love big, and it's a big theme of what feels good in your heart and how you project your heart-centeredness out into the world, and how you feel about yourself and about, the people around you. They're fiercely loyal. And so we've had all of this energy, and it's, I think with them being as close together as they are during this time, in such a prominent sign as Leo, it's really like making us pay attention and ask ourselves, like, what feels like love to you? What makes you feel loved? How do you want to express that emotion outwards towards other people and to the world, and come from a really heart-centered place as you build your next path forward.
I couldn't agree more, Amy. Um, just a reminder to you all that are joining us, we do have a full moon circle that we do online, and we'd love for you to join us. The link is in the bio, and we do journal prompts along with that, and Amy leads us in a wonderful meditation that goes along with it. So we hope to see you all there, and we will see you all for the next new moon coming up here. All right, everyone, have a great one. Thanks.